what, from a big picture view, is the assembly theory way of thinking about our world?
Life seems to be the only thing in the universe that builds complexity in the way that we see it here. And complexity is obviously like a loaded term. So I'll just use assembly instead, because I think assembly is more precise. All the things on your desk here, from your computer to the pen to us sitting here, don't exist anywhere else in the universe as far as we know. They only exist on this planet. And it took a long evolutionary history to get to us. What assembly theory says is that the universe is basically constructing itself. And when you get to these combinatorial spaces like chemistry, where the space of possibilities is too large to exhaust them all, you can only construct things along historically contingent paths. Like you basically have causal chains of events that happen to allow other things to come into existence. This is the way that complex objects get formed, is basically on scaffolding on the past history of objects making more complex objects, making more complex objects. That idea in itself is easy to state and simple, but it has some really radical implications as far as what you think is the nature of the physics that would describe life. What assembly theory does formally is try to measure the boundary in the space of all things that, chemically could exist, for example, like all possible molecules. Where is the boundary above which we should say these things are too complex to happen outside of an evolutionary chain of events, outside of selection? And we formalize that with two observables. One of them is the copy number of the object. So how many of the object did you observe? And the second one is what's the minimal number of recursive steps to make it? So if you start from elementary building blocks like bonds for molecules and you put them together and then you take things you've made already and build up to the object, what's the shortest number of steps you had to take? And what Lee's been able to show in the lab with his team is that for organic chemistry, it's about 15 steps. And then you only see molecules the only molecules that we observe that are past that threshold are ones that are in life, because I think that's actually the boundary that life must cross. So the idea of going back to this thing we were talking about before about these structures that can reinforce their own existence and move past that boundary, 15 seems to be that boundary in chemical space.